As I said, for me, the greatest issue with regarding homeopathy, any of the other complementary medicines or allopathic medicine is there has to be informed choice. Now, we are regularly told that the 2010 Science and Technology investigation is paramount. The response is not mentioned. I think an even more important Science and Technology Committee investigation was the one that was held in September 2013, in which a very full committee unanimously agreed that it was quite shocking, actually, that more than 50% of clinical drugs currently being prescribed do not have sufficient scientific evidence to justify their prescription. If we look at this in terms of amounts spent by the NHS on medication every year, we are talking about £20 billion. That's a lot of housing, that's a lot of education, that's a lot of payment to get down the deficit. £20 billion was the amount agreed by the government with the NHS for the supply of medication. Whether there will be an additional payment or not, I think it's too soon to tell. But what is particularly relevant about the 2013 Science and Technology, they were so upset, alarmed, that the chair of the committee was quoted as saying that it constitutes an unacceptable risk to patients. That is exactly where we find ourselves now. That risk was so unacceptable that it was taken to the European Court, where it was agreed that from 2016, next year, all trials will have to be registered. The evidence will have to be produced within 1 year. But, and this is a very important and a very big but, it doesn't apply retrospectively to any medication which is being used now. So the adverse effects, the people are suffering, the cost to life, to people, the deaths, it's just going to carry on. Now, how can this possibly be? I have written to NHS England, I've written to the Medical Regulation Health Authority, asking them why this information is not put in the public domain, why it isn't on NHS Choices, why we so promote the one Science and Technology finding, but we don't equally allow people to have this. This information should be in every GP surgery. I'm not even sure that most GPs are aware of this. I mean, it is a public scandal. It is, I think, if more people knew what was going on, they would be horrified. Ben Goldacre, who was very involved in this whole process, wrote in his book, Bad Pharma, medicine is broken. And when people become aware of what the pharmaceutical companies and regulators have done to them, they will be very angry. Well, I have to say, I am one of those angry people, because when I hear that Dr. Peter Gotch, who is the head of the Nordic Cochrane collaboration, in a recent interview, I think it was with The Lancet, it was certainly mentioned in the one of the papers, 500,000 people a year, 500,000 people a year die across Europe as a result of taking properly prescribed allopathic medicine. That is a disgrace, because try as the skeptics might, you cannot find people dying from homeopathy, and that's the shame of it. The people are not given the information, they're not being allowed their rights. It is absolutely illegal to not allow people to have a choice. And I don't really mind if they choose homeopathy, as I have done, or whether they choose allopathic medicine. But I am really disturbed that people are not being given the information. Families are not being given information. People go into their GPs trusting that they will be given the best treatment. And this isn't happening, and taxpayers are having to foot the bill. And I'd like to very quickly mention one particular group of people who have been so badly affected by this, and these are parents of children who have been affected by something called sodium valproate syndrome. That is the ingredient given to men and women, but particularly women who suffer from epilepsy. It has also been given to sufferers from bipolar and in some cases migraine. Been prescribed for 40 years. It took until November last year for the MHRA under pressure to eventually put a black box warning on this. It results in, even on small doses, between 30 and 40% of children born to mothers who were taking this drug will be born with problems. Problems in both learning, in all kinds of neurological problems. These children are severely damaged in many instances. Now, how that affects taxpayers and where this information, again, should have been made relevant many years ago, there are an estimate between 20 and 40,000 of these children in the UK. They're affected in other parts of the world as well, France, America. The cost to the taxpayer for these children over their lifetime has been estimated to be more than £5 million each. Multiply that by £20,000. This is the result of the lack of information given to patients. It's the lack of consideration for what is being done to people. It's the whole mantra that, no scientific evidence. Well, this is the evidence of what science has done to these families. I mean, I have so many files of so much of these adverse effects. And back to Peter Gotch, the director of the Nordic Cochrane collaboration, his book is called Deadly Medicine and Organized Crime, which is a pretty good description of what is going on in the allopathic field today. And in his book, there's a challenge that if anybody disagrees with the sentiments, would they kindly email him for further discussion. According to him, allopathic medicine is the third leading cause of death in the Western world after cancer and heart attack. Let's bring in homeopathy and get rid of that particular standard.